Negroponte was sworn in to his new position as Deputy Secretary of State Tuesday at a ceremony attended by President Bush. Negroponte resigned from his post as National Intelligence Director in early January. His career includes stints as ambassador to Iraq after the U.S. invasion, ambassador to Honduras, where he was accused of overseeing the arming of Nicaraguan rebels during the Iran-Contra scandal of the 1980s. In a new explosive article, The New Yorker magazine reports Negroponte's decision to resign as National Intelligence Director was made in part because of the Bush administration's covert actions in the Middle East, which so closely echo Iran-Contra. According to investigative reporter Seymour Hersh, the Bush administration with Saudi Arabia is secretly funding radical Sunni groups, some with ties to Al-Qaeda, to counter Shia groups backed by Iran. Moreover, this is being done without any congressional authority or oversight. Hersh also reports the Pentagon has established a special planning group within the Office of the Joint Chiefs of Staff to plan a bombing attack on Iran. The new panel has been charged with developing a plan that could be implemented within 24 hours of getting the go-ahead from President Bush. Hersh also reveals U.S. military and special ops teams have already crossed the border into Iran in pursuit of Iranian operatives. Seymour Hersh is a Pulitzer Prize-winning journalist for The New Yorker magazine, joining us now from Washington, D.C. Welcome to Democracy Now!, Sy Hersh.
Good morning.
It's nice to have you back from Egypt.
Yeah, that's right.
Talk about what you have found. Start off with John Negroponte.
Well, I did not talk to him. He did not deny the story. He simply refused to comment when the New Yorker sent a series of questions to his office at the State Department. Essentially, it was simply that there were a couple of reasons that he wanted out of the job that McConnell, you just heard in your opening, took after him. One was that he didn't get along with Cheney very well because he was considered to be too much of a stickler, or legalistic was another term people used, in terms of agreeing with some of the covert and clandestine operations by the Pentagon. As many now know, the Pentagon has been running operations without any congressional oversight for years. This has been written about on the basis that they were all part of the war, preparing the battlefield, having to do with military affairs, not intelligence. And therefore, since they were not intelligence, they were not, there was no reason to abide by legislation reporting covert intelligence operations. They were simply military activities that the president could authorize without Congress. And he disagreed with that. He disagreed, I guess you could say, Negroponte found some of these operations to be risky. And also perhaps illegal, but the one that really upset him the most was the covert operations that we're doing in various places in the Middle East, targeted against the Iranians and also the Shia, with funds used in some part by Bandar. And Amy, I should say one thing to correct what you said in the opening, just to adjust it. It's not as if we're ever going to find any evidence that American money went to any Sunni terrorist jihadist groups in Lebanon, which I allege. There's no direct connection. What there is a flood of American money, none of it approved by Congress, into the government of Lebanon, which is Sunni, the government of Prime Minister Senora. And they, in turn, funnel it into various, at least 3 different Sunni jihadist groups.
Now, explain, first of all, you talked about Prince Bandar, the former ambassador to United States.
22 years here, yes.
Known as Bandar Bush.
Not by me.
So he was the ambassador who sat with President Bush a few days after the 9/11 attacks as they smoked cigars at the White House. Well,
he's very close. He's very close to Cheney. He was ambassador here for 22 years. He left a few years ago, replaced by a man named Prince Turki, who's a very eminent member of the royal family, was head of intelligence for the Saudi government, also ambassador to London. And Turkey came, and Turkey quit after less than 2 years on the job because Bandar had a backdoor or a private relationship with too many people in the administration. He was seeing Cheney without telling Turkey. He was, he was arranging meetings. So Bandar has a one-on-one relationship, I assume, with the president. I can say firsthand with Cheney, and also very close to certain members of people inside the White House, including Elliot Abrams, the former, who's now I think he's the senior advisor on the Middle East for the National Security Council and a deputy national security advisor to the president.
So what exactly is the role of Prince Bandar, who's now no longer ambassador, back in Saudi Arabia?
Well, exactly. I don't know. We're talking about a world that's very murky and about which nobody wants to talk officially, unofficially, even except for a few people. In other words, I can't go to the Saudi Arabian government and say, give me an explanation of what's going on. That's just, forget it. We try. Bonder left here, and everybody thought his career was over, including he did too. And he ended up being named National Security Advisor. And lo and behold, in the last 3 or 4 months, he has emerged as a major player for the United States. He's met with the Israelis. What's happened very simply is the president decided sometime in the last 3 or 4 months, perhaps earlier, but he's put it into effect in the last 3 or 4 months. He's decided to work with the British, the UK, and the Israelis, and join up. All 3 of those countries will join up with what we call the moderate Sunni governments, that is Egypt, Jordan, and Saudi Arabia, all very strongly Sunni. And those 6 countries would work together against the Shia and against Iran collectively. In Lebanon, for example, there is a long-standing it's been going on for months, really a political standoff between the Sonora government, the Sunni Sonora government, which supports us and we support, and a coalition headed by Hezbollah. The Shia group that we always call a terrorist group. It was a terrorist group, but has now been working pretty much in the last 6 or 7 years domestically and politically inside Lebanon with still great capacity. We're also working against the regime of Bashar Assad in Syria. He's not a Sunni, he's an Alawite, which is also a minority sect that the Sunni world, in the Sunni world, for the Sunni jihadists, if you're not a Sunni and you don't support their particular political view of the Quran, you're an infidel. You're expendable. And as an Alawite, Bashar Assad is too. And also, of course, everybody's also targeted Iran. So there's been the article is called The Redirection. That's what they call it in the White House. There's been a sort of a massive shift of attention away from Iraq towards Iran, towards stopping Hezbollah in Lebanon, and towards doing something about Assad.
So who is getting the money in Lebanon right now?
Well, it's money that's flowing in, covert money. A lot of it came when all of this started in Lebanon after the assassination of Rafiq Hariri, whose assassination took place, I think, 2 years ago this month, in February of 2005. Immediately we, the United States and our allies, blamed Syria. There's no empirical evidence Syria did it. That seems to be the prevailing view, but there's just no evidence. There's an awful lot of political assassinations in Lebanon. There's 20 or so in the last 10 years. That's one aspect. And what happened is the Sunni government there became our big ally, and we did everything we could to support it. We flooded, I think we called it the Cedar Revolution. And it was a sense of the Sunni government in opposition to Nasrallah, who we view as a major terrorist threat. And I think I have to digress a second to say that I don't know a thing about Bush. I know something about what Cheney thinks, and that is in terms of having some people with first-hand access. And Cheney does believe that the core belief of Cheney is that Iran's going to get a bomb no matter what the intelligence is. As you know, there's not much intelligence supporting the fact that it has a bomb. Iran's going to get a bomb, and once it gets a bomb, its agent, its brown shirt, and that's the phrase they use at least once or twice inside the White House, its brown shirts will be Hezbollah. And they have a capacity in America. They have underground facilities, cells here, and when Iran gets the bomb, they will give it to Hezbollah to distribute it, and Washington and New York will be vulnerable. In other words, Cheney sees what's going on now as a threat to the United States directly.